Hollywood Smoke in the beautiful city of Santa Monica. I'm Steve Kim. Welcome to another edition of 10 Count with Michael Baca of UCN Live and Doug Fischer, editor-in-chief of Ring Magazine. Doug, we were there live for basically the whole week in Las Vegas. The T-Mobile Arena, May 7th. Saul Alvarez retained his WBC middleweight title by stopping Amir Khan in 5. Doug, it was stunning, it was shocking, it was eye-opening, it was breathtaking. And really, Doug, it was no surprise. We kind of knew the first punch was going to either end the fight or irrevocably change it, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, this was an interesting matchup in that people who believed that Amir Khan posed stylistic difficulties for Canelo Alvarez were correct. People who predicted that Canelo would end the fight with a single punch were also correct. Little something for both sides. An interesting event because, 6 months ago when Canelo Alvarez won the WBC middleweight title in the Ring Magazine and lineal recognition as middleweight champ, nobody was talking about Canelo Alvarez fighting Amir Khan.
Yeah.
Nobody had ever thought about that. Going into 2016, nobody was saying, a guy who would be an interesting opponent for Canelo Alvarez, Amir Khan. Oscar de la Hoya thought that was a good idea. Guy who's got a name in the U.S., has a reputation in the U.K., brings international television. A guy who's speaks English, speaks well, believes in himself, and does pose some stylistic difficulties for a star fighter. De La Hoya had the foresight to try and make that into something, and it was interesting because basically Golden Boy Promotions had to create demand for a matchup that had no demand. And I think they succeeded to an extent.
Yeah, one thing that was evident, though, Mike, being there ringside, I thought the first 2 rounds, Amir Khan's athleticism, his quickness, lateral movement, gave Canelo fits. But I'll tell you this, that first hard right hand he landed to the body, the way it moved Amir Khan, I said, uh-oh.
Yeah, and you could see Khan's smile kind of giving the way that, he felt it, definitely. And then, as we said, the first clean flush right hand to the chin, we saw Khan's, chinny aspect of his game come to light. And, let's face it, it was a mismatch.
Physically, it was.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. I
absolutely.
mean, listen, I've always said there's 2 things you need to travel. You need a passport, but you know what also travels? A bad chin. Power doesn't always carry up, but if you're chinny in the amateurs, which Amir Khan was, then you're chinny at 140, then you're chinny at 147. When you're facing a big, strong guy that may come in above the light heavyweight limit, I'm not going to lie to you, I was actually very surprised, Mike, that coming into this fight, now I was told that they asked for it but were rebuffed. If you're Amir Khan's people, don't you have to absolutely insist on a rehydration limit?
Absolutely. If you want to, look after the health of Amir Khan, you need that. Obviously, there wasn't. HBO never gave a same-day weigh-in, I don't believe, of Canelo Alvarez, unless you know of it. Mm-hmm. You need to look after the safety of these fighters. So, it is what it is, and it's completely forgetful now. A lot of people think it was KO of the year right afterwards. I mean, under the context of everything, it's not, because it was indeed a mismatch.
Yeah. Doug, when you look at the situation with Amir Khan, I know it's easy for us to say because we're not the ones getting hit. Well, he could just move down to 47. Doug, let me tell you something. Every time you get hit and hurt, it's a concussion, basically.
Yeah.
Certain levels, certain grades.
Yeah.
That's a bad one. I'm not so sure that he's ever going to be the same guy that he was, let's say, May 6th as he was after May 7th.
Right. Well, Amir Khan has the type of mentality and psychology where he does get over his setbacks. He's just got that unyielding self-belief, but the body remembers.
Some call it delusion, by the way.
Yeah, some do call it delusion, and I think it is delusion to a degree, and I think all fighters have a degree of delusion. If they didn't, they wouldn't climb in that ring. You got to be a little bit crazy to do what they do, and Khan is a little crazier than others because he's more vulnerable than others, but he's always just had this passion to challenge himself and maybe overcommit himself, offensively speaking. That's usually the story for his losses. Not quite with this fight. That was just Canelo catching up to him. And Canelo did a good job subtly sort of imposing himself round by round on that fight. Watching it live, I thought Khan won the first 5 rounds and then got knocked out.
You gave him all
I did. In the
of
moment. I did in the moment. You know, I was doing the international broadcast and I was sitting next to Lennox Lewis, so maybe I had UK goggles on.
Yes, you had the London Bridge on you.
But when watching a replay of it, I saw Canelo was getting closer and was actually maneuvering Khan into that right subtly with his left hook, touching Khan to the body with his right, bringing the left hand down. He set it up and he did it, and I thought he won a round or two before actually closing the show. But back to Amir Khan, you know, Khan will believe in himself. Khan will, if he wants to drop back down to 147 pounds, he will. In his mind, he'll say to himself, I'm a stronger welterweight now because of building myself up to 155. But his body will remember that jolting right hand to the chin that immediately turned his lights out. And the body, when he gets touched like that again, it doesn't have to be as hard. It could just be in the same place, and his body will seize up. Whether or not the punch legitimately turns his lights out in the future, his body's going to remember, it's going to seize up, and it's going to make him more vulnerable than he already is.
Yeah, Doug, looking at the replays of the fight, I really thought by the 3rd, 4th round, Amir Khan's combination punching became flailing of the arms, and it became really a mere annoyance to Canelo. And the term that I like to use is throwing marshmallows at a battleship. I think that Amir Khan tried his best, a lot of fast flurries. He was never going to really back up or get the respect of Canelo Alvarez. Mike, real quickly, anything stand out to you on the undercard?
It was actually kind of underwhelming. I thought Curtis Stevens did a good job of, kind of exposing Patrick Teixeira. It was his first fight under the big lights. But I thought Frankie Gomez handling Mauricio Herrera was a really impressive performance. We've never seen Herrera beat like that and dominated.
Doug?
I didn't think the Gomez fight would be as one-sided as it was. I did have a suspicion that Curtis Stevens would ice Patrick Teixeira. I thought Teixeira would have to have an Antonio Margarito-esque chin,
and he didn't,
to fight
and he didn't.
in his
usual
style against Curtis Stevens. I was impressed with David Lemieux, but I expected more two-way action in that fight. It was a good pay-per-view undercard on paper, and it just didn't pan out. And sometimes that's the way boxing goes. I really thought the whole night made Gennady Golovkin look great because David Lemieux and Curtis Stevens, 2 of his past victims, looked sensational. And Canelo Alvarez called him into the ring after the fight, which just fanned the flames for that huge showdown. So maybe the winner of May 7th was not Canelo Alvarez. It was Triple G.
2 things from the undercard. Lemieux, Stevens, I want to see that fight at some point very soon.
That's an awesome
And the one takeaway,
matchup.
Doug, we were there the whole week for Ring TV, essentially. The second most talked about fighter after Canelo was not Amir Khan. It was actually Gennady Golovkin, so he got a lot out of that week. Well, that's it for this segment of the 10 Count. On behalf of Michael Baca and Doug Fischer, this is Steve Kim saying goodbye, everybody.